What is up, y'all? It's Troy. We're going live here, and I want to talk to you about why you being too nice is actually pushing people away from you, and why we can smell it. It creates a scent, a smell, and it pushes us. It's like a repellent away from us. But let's look into this a little deeper and understand why, and this is something I can speak from some personal experience about because I was at one point very over agreeable, and there's reason to that. So let's unpack a little bit. Stick around to the end because I got some tips to help you let go of that. And it really will change your reality as you'll be more attractive, more likely to connect with people because they'll be able to sense how authentic you actually are. But let's look at this in a frame, right? So oftentimes we come from a childhood experience of, when our parents, when we're children, like our parents are God, right? We look at them for survival, for information, for tribal existence, like actually like this primal instinct of survival. And so when they, say, hey, stop doing this, or why did you do that, or that's really bad because of this, what the message we often can carry is like, oh no, I have to change myself and adapt to them to make sure that I'm safe, that I'm accepted, that I'm absorbed. And it goes even further, like the more emotionally unavailable parents that you have, from my experience, the deeper that sensation or feeling actually is. So if you had some like choking on stuff, sorry about that. I'm all excited and hyped up, But like if you have a parent who is an alcoholic, right? They're naturally going to be detached and unavailable emotionally. Or if you have parents that go through a divorce, oftentimes those parents begin to look for new relationships and it leaves little time and connection for the kids. Or a parent maybe who is working through their own emotional trauma through the way of drugs, alcohol, even work, right? Working too much, becoming a workaholic, all these types of things that distract them and take them further away from themselves, ultimately, and also you as a child. And then they reflect something back to you that says like, hey, you're not doing a good job. That's how we receive it as children, oftentimes. We carry this message of like, I can't just be myself. I have to adapt to other people's needs. And we all carry that to an extent, except for those people who go on the absolutely like the polar opposite, which is narcissism. And there's a variety of forms of different narcissism actually, but like that distinction of narcissistic that we often see play out where it's just like no one else matters, your emotions don't matter. That's also a very common thing. There's a whole nother slew of emotions around that, but let's stay with this topic, talking about being too nice and overly agreeable. So what happens is we enter the world, right? We go to school, we start to make potentially relationships, intimate relationships, friendships. And what we often display is our self-bending, adapting outside of our frame, what we actually feel to be true to ourselves. We bend that to appease another person. And we believe that being overly nice, by like relating to everything that they essentially find cool or unique, if we relate to that, they'll like us and accept us. But strangely, and if you've done this, you've probably experienced this, it often does the exact opposite. But why? It's because at the end of the day, it's not showing authenticism. And like I had a coaching session with a client today, and we talked about this a bit. And I do this little game that I play with them, and it goes something like this. And you can try this; it's actually a lot of fun to kind of play with. But what you do is you sit with the person and you ask them like, "Hey, what's your favorite movie?" And they're like, "Oh, like something about Mary, right, with Ben Stiller." And you're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great movie. I love that movie. Love Ben Stiller." What's your favorite part? That one part where he, zips his balls up in his zipper or whatever, gets the beans above the frank. And you're like, oh, yeah, I love that part too. It's my favorite too. What do you like to do for fun? You're like, oh, I like to go, hiking on the weekends and stuff like that. Oh, hiking is so great. I love to go hiking. Do you see how like placid the back and forth actually is? Because it kind of sounds like that. You just go like, oh, yeah, me too. Oh, and they're like, yeah, it is kind of good. And then you change it and you go, okay, now ask me again. Okay. And so you say, what's your favorite movie? And they're like, something about Mary. And you're like, something about Mary? Isn't that one like Ben Stiller and the dude like zips his balls up or whatever? The movie's weird, dude. You think that's funny? That's like your favorite movie? I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's your favorite movie? And they naturally will start to laugh. They're like, yeah, like I kind of like it. And you're like, okay, yeah. Not my favorite, but all right, I get your vibe. I feel you. Right? The strange thing is they actually like laugh in that exchange. Why? Why is that taking place? It's because they actually feel that you're safe because you're being authentic to them. You're not just like appeasing to their things. The other way is actually a form of manipulation. We're trying to manipulate them to liking us. We just agree with everything they say. But in fact, by you being disagreeable in this instance, by you just being authentic, you're actually sending the message that I can trust you. We can disagree and you're safe. Like we disagree on something, you're not like gonna blow up. Oh my God, that's the worst thing ever. Or just agree with me until eventually some point you build up resentment. You're like, I fucking hate this guy or this girl. You just be authentic to who you are, right? So learning to do those little things and just, and seeing the feedback that you're safe by like you being just authentic in who you are, you can actually start to receive the feedback that you're safe. Your worst fears aren't going to actually happen. Like deep down, and I have some other cool exercises that we can talk about where we like dig deeper into like, what are your greatest fears? What do you fear? Like the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment. And so in that instance, you meet this potential new person and you tell like, you're actually authentic about the favorite movie, and we're just using that as an example, right? You're actually authentic about it, and the worst case scenario happens. They're like, dude, like my movie's like cool. So, anyways, I got to take off, and they reject you. Like, what actually happened right there? Does it actually mean that you're like not worthy of love, not worthy of being accepted, that you've been abandoned by this person that you don't even know? No, right? But we receive that message as that because that's the fear we carry from the past through a variety of different traumatic exercises. Again, that's why trauma work's so important because it releases a lot of that energy, a lot of the stories that we're unconsciously telling ourselves. So as we change the frame and we realize like, yo, that's maybe not the reality, we can create a reframe. You can go, actually, maybe this person is just in a rush, or maybe they're already dating somebody else, or whatever, right? And we're just not connecting, and I'll just move along. Notice the flow that creates. I have found that as we climb up like the energetic chain, right? And there's actually like an energetic chart. You can check it out. Whether you believe in that stuff or not, it's up to you. It's all cool. I get it. Either way, one cool like way to look at that is to see like just lower level thoughts versus higher level thoughts. But energetically, if you look at it, like the upper level thoughts need to be thoughts that they're like essentially like a way that we can let go, right? Learning to surrender to ideas and letting go of like, things have to be a certain way. The lower frame of ideas and thoughts and energies are typically based around contraction, control, right? We're trying to control the outcome. We're trying to make things happen. But the more we can flow and let go, that's exactly what happens as we start to flow. It becomes a smoothness to life, right? And you can feel it in a social dynamic, in an energetic exchange with somebody else. You can feel when somebody's trying to control and make you like them, right? Force you into a potential outcome, or just connecting with you, right? So the goal here is to not have any goal. So you meet that person, you let it go, you're relaxed, and let things flow. And one other cool little like social tip that helps, and it's just something we practice today, so I'll share it with you. It's pretty cool. Is you have the person stand up. You can do this with a friend, and feel the awkwardness as you stand up and just like kind of stare at each other. And then one way is to go up towards them and try to connect through just like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, kind of crazy weather today, right? And try to connect through these like questions, or you can go at them and say a statement. When you say a statement, it's different. So in this example, you go up, you're like, hey, dude, is that like a gemstone you have right there? Is that like a opal or whatever, right? You come up and you ask a question, right? Is that a gemstone? They're like, oh yeah, it's actually this. Dope, it's a cool necklace. And then keep it rolling. Notice the difference in energy. They're actually going to want to pursue your energy a little bit. They're curious now, like, oh, it's because that displays a level of confidence. I don't need anything from you, right? I'm just making a statement. Boom, I'm in my space. I have a certain level of confidence, right? Versus having a neediness of like, hey, what's up? Oh, da, 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 da. I'm kind of lost. I don't have a center, right? You can also use humor. That's obviously going to be very, very good way to exchange and like loosen the energy up. But anyways, just some interesting stuff about like social dynamics at play, how those play out in the world, and working through our wounds is so important. Getting that space and distance from ourselves so we can learn more of who we are, how we're showing up in the world, and ultimately how we want to show up in the world. So love you all so much, man. Do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, share this with somebody else who might benefit from it. Until next time, peace.